Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this fifth think tank of the European Showrunner Program. This panel is the fifth edition, like I said, also the last edition of the European Showrunner Think Tank. I've been moderating two already, so I'm really looking forward to doing the third one. This is a series of industry events that aims to help, analyze, and discuss, and eventually establish a sustainable and truly European approach to showrunning. And the event series is part of the European Showrunner Program, a unique initiative by the IFS Internationale Filmschule in Köln, and it's funded by Creative Europe Media and the Film and Media Fund Noord-Rijn-Westfalen. And we have exciting industry partners such as Netflix and Series Mania. My name is Marieke Muselaars. I am actually working for a company in the Benelux called Lumière. But I live in Sweden. As you can see, it's extremely cold and dark here already. There's some snow, so let's all get a little cozy. I think it's actually quite cold in the rest of Europe as well. And let's talk showrunning. We've had, like I said, 4 panels, think tanks already. One was from the showrunning perspective. One was from the producer's perspective, one from the broadcaster's perspective, and one with a focus on sustainability and diversity and equality. And this time we're actually going to hear from the European Showrunners Training, so from 2 participants and the head of program. Up to me to introduce them. First, we have Jeppe Gjervig Gram, writer, showrunner, and also head of program of the European Showrunner Program. Hello, Jeppe.
Hello.
Are you joining us from Copenhagen?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so cold there as well, right?
Oh, yes, very.
And then I'm really happy to introduce Julie Skaufel. She is a writer and director. Hello, Julie.
Hello, hi.
Hi, also from a cold country, right?
Yes, I'm currently in Oslo and it's 15 minus today.
Yeah,
so that's
16 minus here.
Oh.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And last but not least, we have Tijs van Marle from the Netherlands, and he is a book writer and a screenwriter. Hello, Tijs.
Hello, hello.
And how cold is it there?
Oh, it's only -4. We're doing okay here.
Easy.
Easy.
All right. Well, guests, I'm so happy to have you with us. And I'm going to give you the chance to properly introduce yourselves and not just talk about the weather. And I'd love to hear from you when you introduce yourself, what actually is your showrunning experience. Jeppe, up to you.
Yes. Well, I'm a writer. I'm a head writer, and I am a showrunner. I have been working as a TV series creator for quite some years. I would say for quite some time. I was writing on Broadened and sort of like junior head writer on that and co-creator. And then with Follow the Money, I became the creator and head writer and showrunner. And since there was 3 seasons of that show, and since then I've been in development with a number of shows that are currently in development. One of them is hopefully greenlit before Christmas. We'll see.
Oh, exciting! Before Christmas, 2 more weeks, not even.
They say,
right.
But you never know.
No, you never know. Hopefully some good news soon then. Julia, what about you?
Yeah, my name is Julia and I'm from Norway. I created the show or co-created the show Home for Christmas, and was writer and head writer on both of them. And then another show called Christmas Stars. So it was very much Christmas for a while, but that's that's quite nice, and which I was a sort of showrunner on it, but not completely in the way that I think that the European showrunner should be. And then last show that it was just finished now a couple of months ago, and it's airing in February, and then Norwegian broadcaster. And now I've I'm in the middle of pre-production of a series that's been recently greenlit, and which I'm showrunning, and a feature film that I'm directing. So right now it's quite busy, which is, you know, a privilege and also quite stressful.
I can imagine. And you say that you go from writer to showrunner, so I would love to hear a little bit more about that later, for sure. But first I want to hear from Tijs.
Yes, I'm Tijs from Holland. I've been writing feature films mostly for my writer's career for the last 22 years. But I've been also doing a lot of head writing, leading writers teams for children's shows. So the real showrunning I have not been doing yet. I've always been a head writer or a writer, and of course writing children's books. My main focus for a lot of my work is for children between 7 and 10. And I recently worked on the Netflix show Dirty Lines, which I was part of the writers team. And I had a really good showrunner. I was working for him, and it was nice to see how that worked. Right.
And you thought, I'm going to do this training and become a showrunner myself.
That's what I thought.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay, so a few practicalities for everyone there. You can actually ask questions. I should be able to see them in the chat. If that's going to be a lot, then don't be angry if I can't get to your questions, but I will really try to squeeze them in here and there. Yeah, other than that, let's just have some fun together and talk about showrunning. In all these panels that I've done and that I've seen, we talked about the definition of a showrunner, and I have to say it was always a little different, especially when it came, for example, from an American point of view or indeed from a European point of view. So I would love to ask that question to you as well. And I mean, I'm gonna all the time call out your names, but if you want to say something, please just raise your hands, because I prefer this to be a little bit of a nicely flowing discussion, even though that's not so easy on Zoom, but let's give it a try. Jeppe, the definition of a showrunner, what do you think?
Well, for me, it comes down to, it has many forms, but it comes down to the person who is running the show, who is the creative the one creative responsible person for the vision and the creation and the daily running of a TV series, and that can take many shapes and forms. We have been talking so much about the American showrunning model, which is obviously somewhere we all something we all look to, but it's I believe that there are other forms of showrunning, and that might be more applicable to a European situation. I'm not sure we will have in Europe anytime soon the kind of almost all-powerful American showrunner, where basically a writer, often a writer, is basically calling all of the shots in all of the areas. I'm not sure that will be the Danish version. For instance, me with Follow the Money, I was I was working very closely together with a producer, and I was responsible for all the creative decisions, and he was responsible for all the practicalities around. And I would say together we were like an American showrunner. But still, I was the one responsible for the creative calling of the shots.
Yeah, I think that is what we've had a lot. Indeed, more the creative running of the show, but as soon as it gets to budgeting, etc., in Europe, we're getting more towards the production role, whilst in the US, there is the showrunner is responsible for everything in that sense, right? Julia, you say you went from writer to showrunner, so maybe you have some extra takes on this.
I think she's frozen.
I think Julia is frozen. So Tijs, what about you?
Well, we had some really interesting people that came to talk at the showrunning program, especially a couple of German showrunners who were writers and after a success, they started their own production company and became showrunner producers in their own production company. So this was, if you're talking about what is a showrunner, these German guys were doing it quite well. They the How to Sell Drugs Online, for instance, the team, they started their own company, and now they're running a show as they would do it in Europe. So this, I thought, was an interesting way of doing the showrunning thing instead of other forms that we heard from. But what is the definition of a showrunner? It is all the classical things we've heard, but I like the one of the guys who did How to Sell Drugs Online Fast. I like that one the best.
Okay. And there she is again. Hey, Julia, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry, it seemed like my every internet in the area shut down. I don't know if it's due to snow or what it is.
Well, it wouldn't be a Zoom webinar if something like this wouldn't happen. So I'm just happy that you're back. But we're still talking about the definition of a showrunner, so you can take that if you want.
I'd love to, and I think Jeppe is he's very much onto something here, of course, and it's the collaboration between the writer or head writer and the producer. And the show that I'm working on now, I'm in very close contact with my producer, and I would say like more or less executive producer, and I'm responsible for everything creative. But of course, I'm also I think it's important that as showrunners and head writers, we, if not being sole responsible for budgeting, that we use budgeting also as a tool, because it does help you to move along the writer's room and knowing, you know, where to cut and everything. But it's the kind of two-headed troll, I guess, with a producer and showrunner together, or the producer and head writer becoming the showrunner. I think that's a very healthy way to move into showrunning, I would say.
So is in that sense more about knowledge about the whole process instead of, let's say, the final responsibility? Oh, Julia, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think it's the whole you know, the overview, and the kind of joint responsibility with the producer throughout the whole production. But I think that, and this is always up to debate, but you know, being the one who has the creative final cut is, of course, it should be with the showrunner, but it's also the broadcaster and the producer, and it's all a collaboration. But you know, it's so that's a bit of a balance, but I think it should always be with the showrunner who has the creative vision.
You
agree, gentlemen?
Yeah, I agree. We have to create a vision, but it's, of course, in Europe we're always working with a lot of people, and mostly now the director, of course, is taking them in a lot of places, taking these creative decisions. So working together is a skill.
So we're still very much in this trifecta in Europe with director, producer, writer.
Yes, but it's getting better, of course. But you know, as writers, we have to learn a lot of things before we can take certain steps into the showrunning role. You know, I do a lot of movies. The first couple of movies I did, I was never even invited to talking to a line producer. And then you get to know people. You're sitting with line producers. You're talking about how are we spending the money? How can we solve problems? So you're gaining knowledge while working, and then you can use it to become a showrunner. But if I didn't have also a lot of things we learned in the course, if we didn't have this, you shouldn't even know where to start. You can make creative decisions everywhere if you like, but they have to also make sense in the in the whole thing of making a TV show with money and actors and everything.
Can you give an example of one of your experiences, or?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know, if this is mostly from cinema, but you know, I made a big movie, co-production between Italy, Belgium, and Holland, and we spent a lot of time working on the third act, because it was very difficult to make the third act make it work. And then while we were shooting the movie, there was just no money to do the third act, so we just cut off the third act, and we had to think of something in the last scene, you know. But being there in these conversations, talking about money, making these decisions, making it work, you know, this is it's not that it was my creative decision, but I had to solve it for everybody, otherwise we couldn't do it, you know. And so there are a lot of moments then when a writer is called in to make decisions on because otherwise other people will do it. And the thing is, being a showrunner, we are closer to the process of these decisions. We are closer to making the right decisions at the right time. So working later on series and TV shows, you're trying to just wiggle yourself in a little bit without a title or without a invitation, just try to be there when people are cutting stuff. So this is a budget thing, but we have to learn. We have to know how things work.
It's better when you're invited and paid.
Yes, that's it. We have to get invited and paid.
Yes, that is the goal. Jeppe.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just build on that what Tijs says, that I think actually that if not all writers, then at least many writers I know are actually they're not afraid of going into this kind of discussions. I think discussions about what does the budget hold? What can we do? How can we tell the story? And I think as writers, we are so close to the narrative, to the core narrative of the stories that are told, whether it's a feature film we're doing or whether it's a TV series. And I think going back to the writers and saying, well, we can't afford this, what could we do? I think really it makes a lot of sense. I mean, in a sense, yeah, leave it to the writers to solve those problems also, or at least engage the writers very closely. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I would also say that for me, we've been touching upon this several times during this course. Showrunning is absolutely not about power for the sake of power. I think it's and I think all the people in our course absolutely agrees. It's about power for the sake of the quality of the TV series, and the idea of showrunning comes out of a realization that if the writer is given that role of a showrunner, or whatever we want to call it, we call it showrunning, but as a creative leader of a TV series, that will make the TV series better. It's a natural it's a natural nexus creatively to have a head writer with also power outside of the room. So just to brush away any kind of confusion, this is not, I mean, there are some directors that feel it like that, but absolutely, to me, it's not about writers just wanting the power that the directors used to have for a number of years, or still have, on feature films. It is how do we make the best TV series, and we can also, I mean, I'm mostly interested in the writer situation as showrunner, probably because I'm a writer, because it's my tradition, and because I think, at least with long-running TV series, I think it makes much more sense to have a writer as the creative leader and as the showrunner. But I mean, with a mini-series or with a series where everything was written beforehand and so on, you know, I'm completely open to a director could be a showrunner, and there's been many successful and great examples of that. I think the most important thing is that you have one vision, and that one person or maybe more persons are able to share that vision. But I mean, one point of view that tells the story you want to tell, whether you're doing a feature film where it will often be the director, or you tell a TV series, because that's the way you tell a strong story. And I think basically that for me, this point of view should make a lot of sense to people with experience of doing TV shows. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you call it creative leader, because I think the term showrunner often refers to the situation in the US, right? And here in Europe, when you talk about showrunners, you do sometimes get that power struggle, power balance, I guess, where the producers are like, oh, and the directors are like, what is my role?
Yeah. Sorry, Marie.
Yeah, no, please.
I try sometimes to use both of the terms, just because some people really react strongly against the showrunner concept. However, I have used more and more for the last couple of years the term showrunning, and I use it honestly, and I really believe that it is a valid term, even though we don't have an American way of showrunning. I think it has the term has value in Europe as well. But I try to
But it's also difficult sometimes when you mention the term showrunner. People have directly in their head an idea of what it is. So sometimes producers really they flip out. We're not talking about this anymore until the showrunner gets off the table. This term.
Okay.
So we have there is some emotion attached to it, and this emotion is, of course, it's maybe our role as writers that aspire to be showrunners to take a little bit away from this emotion.
But this is also why we're doing these think tanks, right? So we've had one focused on the producers, where we had producers that actually reached out to other producers and said, you need to almost do these internships with writers to make them into showrunners, to involve them in the whole process, because in the end, it's only going to gain you so much.
After you've had this difficult conversation where everybody is angry or scared that something has been taken away from them, then you come into the discussion, what can be gained. And this was also something that we talked about a lot in the course. How can you convince people that it is actually a smart thing to involve the writer as a head writer, as a showrunner in your TV show? You get use the knowledge you have.
So how do you do that?
Well, I think actually there's also the fact that a lot of both producers and directors often seem to think that writers are like scared of confrontation regarding the script. It's like if you change something, all writers, throw a tantrum and go bananas, which of course it might happen. That I'm sure that happens sometimes, but I've never seen any of my colleagues do that, and I've never done that because, we do protect a sort of creative vision, but like I want to make things. I don't want to write stuff that no one's going to produce because it's either one, shit, or too expensive, or just not something that the broadcasters nothing that they want. So I think that there is this old-fashioned view on writers being protective, and the guys that they just sit in their own little lofts, drinking tea and nobody talk to me kind of stuff, which is very far from the truth. And I think that most writers, at least the writers I know, are very willing to go into saying like, okay, but how can we adapt this that I'm already started writing and that we're going to make into a TV show? How can I try to make that as good as possible so it actually will be made? But is essential that you keep the writer or the head writer on for those changes, because that's usually the person that knows the characters, the worlds, the arcs, and the whole universe the best, and who will most efficiently be able to change scenes and characters and everything.
Well, like I said, it's going to be the one they're going to come to when there's a problem anyway.
Exactly, and I've experienced directors completely taking a hold of the script and rewriting everything, which happens more often than I think we like to admit, unfortunately. And I think that being able to start that dialogue much earlier, and both directors, writers, and producers agreeing on who has what is everyone's job in a way, and how can we create this vision together, because it is a collaboration. Yeah, and I don't know, I think that you can't be afraid of conflict. I've met specifically producers who has been, no, I don't want conflicts. I hate conflict. And of course, you don't like to argue, but having a creative conflict is something completely different, because then you discuss what will look best and how can we portray everything that we're trying to say in the best possible way. And that's not a conflict. That's a creative discussion, which is fruitful at most times.
So I think you're already answering a question that we have here from Taro Sladek, and it is, what is the most difficult interaction with producers to keep the essence and quality of the episodes and seasons? What is the best tactic? It's you were kind of touching upon that already, but does anyone else have to add something to that?
Difficult question.
It's an intelligent audience that we have.
What's the most difficult interaction?
How do you keep the essence and quality of the episodes, basically?
Well, that's
as a showrunner.
Always difficult.
Yeah.
But I think, again, it comes down to your relationship with, when it comes to producers, at least, the relationship that you have with your producer. If that's a relationship that started early in the production, and you both agree the whole time on what are we actually trying to say, what are we trying to convey, I think it's easier to have that kind of a joint voice. But of course, it depends on the producer, and is it a producer with a very creative drive, or is it a producer more on almost like on the other end of the sphere? But most of the producers I've worked with has at least an interest of creative production. Otherwise, I guess you wouldn't be doing television.
True. Jeppe?
I think it seems to me, I completely agree with Julie. I think the question comes from the situation where the producer is not particularly in favor, probably, of the writer as a showrunner, or at least with that kind of with responsibility in so many creative decisions as I would expect a showrunner, a creative TV series leader to have, and I would say, because like Julie says, ideally, in this situation, you're working with a producer who's actually your ally. And that has been my experience solely because I come from Denmark, where we had this tradition probably before anybody else in Europe. And for me, my producer is my ally, and within the DR system, but I would say in most of Denmark, in private production houses, this is understood that that this is the way we work in tandem, and we have to trust each other. And of course, there can be differences in the way we look at the show, and we can even argue. And some head writers, showrunners, argue a lot with the producers, but I tend not to. I tend to try to really. I try to also hear and understand the producer's point of view and be responsible in that. And of course, I will, get very defensive if I feel that their point of view is attacking my vision. But I will always try to find some kind of common ground and try to solve those kind of issues. But I would say, even if you are in a situation where your producer is not your complete ally and you cannot completely, trust that person in when you face difficult choices in the production, then I would quote Anne Bjørnstad, who said that her most important, I mean, during this course, I think it was, I think in a think tank actually, but she said that often her most important ally is the broadcaster executive.
Yeah.
That she used the broadcaster executive, and I think that would be a good advice in that situation. That if you don't completely feel that your producer trusts you or allows you the kind of wielding the kind of creative power that you need, then I mean, if you pitched your show to an executive at a broadcaster and they fell in love with the thing that you are doing and that you are the guarantee that your vision will be made, then I mean, use them. I mean, try to build a clear relationship with them then, because they hold the money that the producer want. So it might not, it doesn't have to be the broadcast executive, the producer, and you as a head writer or showrunner or creator. It can be the broadcast executive, you and the producer. And I think at least I think many TV series creators in Europe, around Europe, should be aware that this might also be a possibility to actually build an ally with the customer.
And it's true, you're always pitching together with the producer to the broadcaster anyway. So you are building that meaningful relationship. So you are the quality guarantee in the end, right? As a showrunner.
But when you're in the middle of a show and you have difficulty with doing something, and I've experienced that it's very difficult to then go over the head of the producer to the broadcaster. So you have to make a good plan when you do that. And I think now, just as Jeppe said, and just as you say, we are, as writers, we are getting more access to the broadcasters to pitch directly to them or to the streamers. They even invite us here in the Netherlands. They invite the writers to come over to have a coffee to pitch some ideas. When the streamers came to Holland first, we couldn't even get an email address or a telephone number. You had to go through the producers to get to talk to someone. But now everybody is more relaxed, and you can build the relationships that you need. Yeah.
Just to add on to what Tijs says, yes, definitely build the relationship, and of course try to build them before the shit hits the fan. Try to build them before. I mean, if you only go to them when everything is locked in a conflict, then definitely the producer will feel that you're illoyal, disloyal. But if you groom that relationship from the beginning, then it won't seem so offensive to use them.
Yeah, preferably together with the producer. I'm getting a lot of questions, but so Durte, Florian, Diane, Taro, I will get to your questions, but I also really want to make sure that we talk about the training. So I'm going to do that first, because that in the end is the whole purpose of this think tank. Yeah, where to start? What are your key takeaways, participants, after doing the European Showrunner Training? Julie, Tijs, who wants to take this first?
Oh, I can say a little something. It's the realization of how much work there actually is to be a showrunner. Like I can see that I'm sort of been show running a couple of shows where I've done some of the jobs, and perhaps that had that, you know, yeah, the whole kind of role of it, but close. But there is a lot to wrap your mind around, and it's been very nice to kind of have an in-depth, well, schooling in a way, and what you're actually going to do, and what you're in like what, like I know what everyone does at a production, but then speaking to, for instance, the editor, or speaking to the production designer, knowing much more in depth what they do and what they think when they get a script. How do they analyze the script? How do they break down a script? Is really, really, really helpful, just to know that, okay, when I write this, the production designer or the line producer or the editor is gonna translate that into their own lingo, and getting more of that has been very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, 6 months speaking to our colleagues, we were in a group with 12 writers, and some of them were already show running, and some of them were mostly head writing. We shared a lot of experiences, and having, what, as Julie said, everybody just came in and talked about their take on what do you do as an AD, how do you as a line producer, what do you do when you get the script? And so for me, as the training was really about, I'm really a writer, so I was always writing. I'm a little bit close to, when we're doing the productions, I'm close to the producer in helping them solving problems. You know, I'm doing this, but I wasn't really show running, and I thought this program would lead me to show running. But I found out, just by listening to everybody, just learning that my focus is, I'm really more interested in being a writer and a head writer, and being involved in the script. So this was also like an eye-opener for me, you know, the dream of becoming a showrunner. But then 6 months of hearing all these colleagues, hearing the stories, hearing what you're doing, how everybody's working so hard, and it was really clear to me that, you know, it's an interesting thing to aim at, but it's not for me an interesting thing to do. So
wow.
This was, for me, it was the best 6 months ever spent, because I'm much more clear in my own goals.
I mean, it's really valuable to find out what you don't want to do as well, right?
Well, true, because, you know, the show running is really, it is an intensive and heavy job to do, and your creative vision really has to, you know, I also think maybe once you have a show that you really want to make so bad, when your creative vision is so strong that you have to be there, then of course things will change. But I also learned that the way I like to cooperate with people, communicate, try to find teams together, just as Julie said, and just like Jeppe said, find the co-producer that makes you into the show running team. These combinations are things that we've talked about a lot in the show, in the program, and we can all find our own way how we fit in. And for me, it's more leaning towards the writing side than to the completely producing side. So this was really interesting, and it helped a lot that we had all these professionals from all over Europe, especially also, that talked to us about how they were doing things.
And also just to add on to that, because it's interesting, because I think we're on opposite sides of the scale, because from these 6 months, I realized that, well, this is actually what I want to do. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't quite know what show running actually is and everything. But the more I learned, I'm like, yes, it just like has my name written all over it. This is what I'm supposed to do, because I like to kind of scatter myself on different layers, I guess. But we had a class, amongst others. It was the one about how to be a good leader, or how to find your leadership style, which resonated really, really, really in me because I learned a lot on how I've dealt with situations before and how I ideally would like to do that, and how I need to perhaps take a little bit like a step back and think like, how can I become better at being a good leader? How can I connect people better together and create that sound work environment where everyone feels like this is their show, at the same time as I know that I am the one with the creative responsibility of making it a great show. But when a great show actually becomes great, giving that giving that light to the others, and take a little bit of a step back myself, but letting the others kind of shine in that, because I don't need that. I know what I can do and not do. And then also when, as Jeppe said, shit hits the fan, step up and take that responsibility. And yeah, I think that was that was a class that I had that really hit home for me, at least.
So leadership skills to become a creative leader.
Yeah, to become a creative leader. And I think also it would be, not only for showrunners, but also all leaders in every possible line of work should have that type of training, because it says a lot about you as a human and how you work, and how to use your own skills in a way that actually makes you a better leader and creates a better work environment.
Fantastic.
And another really interesting takeaway of being together with people from different countries, all writers. We had people from Finland, Norway, Sweden, Germany, Poland, Holland, Belgium. Yeah. We were talking with these people about how we were writing, but also how we were doing business in our countries. So we had. For me, I was really interested in how everybody was building up their contracts, how our rights involved, how do we make the money situation work, how do we do the negotiations. So we spent a lot of time also outside of the classes talking about how can we get a European idea of what we are doing. We're all working with the American streamers, but we're all working on our own European islands. So being together and just talking to each other was also a big. It was really good, to hear what the other countries are doing.
To me, that's something that, it's great that that's part of a showrunner training, but that should be something that should exist in general anyway. More exchange between all these countries and between, indeed, all the creative executives.
And of course, all our how do you call it? Unions are communicating with each other about this, but being together for 6 months and getting to know each other and easily talking to each other about how do you do this and how do you do that. Yeah. The communication was really interesting.
So community, I hear leadership skills, also breaking down the script, all these different departments that work with your script, etc. Jeppe, when you put the program together, and
together
more or less, exactly, together with a team.
Pauline and
now 6 months later, the first one is done. Was it all that you expected when you put it together, or?
It's way more. I was approached by Nadia and Caroline from the IFS, and they had the original idea for doing this kind of format, and I was invited on board to help them structure it and to help them structure it. I think especially from a showrunner's point of view. What do we actually need? I think they had a clear understanding that this would be interesting, and that this is a subject that really was not explored enough and in enough depth from the beginning, and it was very interesting to try to design that. But I would say that first of all, it was very interesting to try to design something about, leadership in TV series, and try to pinpoint a lot of all the different aspects, because generally when you do these kind of things, it's often you know, you do something in a big talk, or maybe a 1-day course, or maybe it might be a 3-day course, but actually trying to pinpoint all the skills you need, I think was also for me very interesting. But I think what we couldn't have foreseen was the way that actually that the participants were such an integral part of educating each other. And now I think looking back, it seems like ridiculous that we didn't really see that. But of course, it comes down to also the chemistry between the participants that we choose. And luckily, we had a big amount of applications from a lot of great and very talented people. You know, we feel very lucky that we had 12 we have, but there were a big number of people, and I think during the seminar, watching people interact and sensing how much the participants were inspiring each other with their experiences and knowledge has been, for me, and I know for Caroline and Nadia, been I mean, a great eye opener for us. That this was because, I mean, showrunning is, I mean, it is so much about talking about experience. It's not something that you can teach academically. There's no way to do that. So it really comes down to, and there's no, like we all know, there's no two writers' rooms that are the same. The psychology and each TV series is different. The path it takes creatively is different. So it really comes down to talking a lot about the process. And I think for a lot of the mentors and educators that we have, experts that we have used, I would say, at least for me, I mean, it's been as educational for me as I think it has been for the participants.
And what's also good, what Jeppe said, the process. We were always only talking about the process and about the technicalities of showrunning. We were not talking about anything creative writing or creating shows. And this was also interesting because a lot of time when you do courses about writers' rooms or showrunning, we are diving into the creative side of it. And this was very interesting. I thought about this program. We were not talking about any creative things. We were just talking about how do you do it? How do you set it up? What do you need? What do you find out? This was one of the biggest things that I thought this was interesting, because the creative thing we do somewhere else, or we do it together when we're. But all the courses were directly in the practicalities. So this was really interesting.
So you don't come with a project.
No, and that. Yeah, and that was actually quite a relief, because you, like in all like courses and classes and stuff like this, you have to present something, and it was very nice to not have to do that, because most of us does that every day anyway. Within, you know, to a producer, or you show something to a director or broadcaster or an actor, and everyone thinks something about what you've done, and it was in that way a bit of a free space to be able to just learn and educate yourself and become better at a skill, and kind of, you know, becoming a better creative leader. And the funny thing that was that within this group, it actually I know that it happened with several others, that we started creating shows across countries, saying that, oh, we should work together on this one. We could do something here. This would be fun, and stuff like that, which was, you know, it's always nice to find new possible collaborations and people that you know, that has that same interest as you.
I was wondering if you already found some new projects to work on through the training. Yeah. early stages, you know. Yeah. But no, but they have been you know, talks about projects that would have been fun to do together, and trying to set that up, like thinking, how can we do that across, and who's going to show run it? Exactly, that would be a fight. No, not Tijs, exactly.
Yeah.
No, but no,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really good, and also talking to all the colleagues. You know, I've started dealing in another way with my contracts after being together with these guys for 6 months. You know, hearing about how other people are doing it. It's really interesting, just from a way of, as a writer, as a showrunner, as a creative. How do you work with your ideas? And so this was also a big takeaway for a lot of us, I think. Yeah.
We have 10 minutes left, and I have quite a few questions here. And I also, I mean, in the end, the whole, let's say, overall goal of these think tanks was to find out what a European way, a sustainable European way of showrunning could be. So I want to dedicate the last 5 minutes to your takes on that. Fortunately, some of the questions actually tap into that already. One is pretty short and actually quite fun. Showrunners, how do you manage your time? From Florian Leppin. Who wants to take that?
I think that's Jeppe.
I don't have a very good answer for that, because it's very difficult as a showrunner.
You just do it.
It's very difficult. Yeah, I mean, I for many years I didn't have a family, and this is unfortunately a story that I've heard before. It doesn't mean that you cannot have a family. Luckily, most showrunners I know have one, but it really takes a lot of discipline, and you have to learn, I think, how to deal with all the stress that is integral part of running a TV series, because there's always more things that you can than you can actually do and have time for. I was in a panel at the WCOS conference in Copenhagen recently, and we were some showrunners on stage, and Anders from who created Bjørnstad said that the one thing that he would say to somebody the one advice for showrunning he would give was delegate or die. And I think there's some truth, a big truth in that even though if you are in charge of the TV series and you are the main power in the TV series, you have to have creative people close to you that you believe are able to solve their jobs, directors, actors, whatever, and you have to trust them. So you can't be micromanaging a TV series. You will surely die, and you won't have a family. Yeah, delegate or die.
Yeah, and trust, I think we haven't even, well, we touched upon it in different answers, of course, but it is something extremely important when it comes to this whole process, not just between producer and showrunner, but also definitely indeed from the showrunner to everyone else. Okay, then we have Diana Schussele. In the complex, messy process of script development, with so many decisions and possible ways along the way, what are your strategies to not lose sight of the creative vision? Okay, 2 minutes.
Wow, that's a difficult question. I think that, knowing your creative vision, deep inside, I think it will still keep you grounded in a way, and you have to, of course, take into calculations both how to produce this, how do we shoot this, who are we working together with, what's our target audience, and all of that. But those are all things on the outside. Like it's noise in a way. So as long as you can which is, I don't know, I can't really describe it better, but as long as you kind of keep your core close to your heart, it will always shine through, because everything else is, noise in a way, at least in that phase. And then going into production, everything changes, of course, but yeah, and listen to others, because often they understand your vision much more than you would, think they do. At least if it's like sort of like your baby. If you're close to your vision, you will easily translate that to others, and they might even have quite often I experience other writers or co-writers or producers or directors having that same vision and then coming with their ideas that actually enhances the vision. So it's that, you know, duality of holding on to your idea at the same time as opening it up to others. And, you know, you're gonna have, you know, hopefully millions and millions of people watching your show or your product, and they will take away their point of view on it regardless. So, you know, you can't control your creative vision in that way the whole way anyway. So just, you know, I don't know. I don't think I actually
No, I actually think it's a beautiful answer.
Yeah, but knowing your creative vision and sharing it in an early stage with people, they can help you keep you on track. And then even if they keep you on track and you say, but now I want to do something else, then you at least know what you're doing. So share it in an early stage. Yeah. So
when we talk about a sustainable European show running system, there's actually one question still about green storytelling. Any thoughts? Is it a concern? She also says in Borgen, it obviously is there. I think definitely in the fourth season. But are our 3 showrunners in general thinking about it? Who wants to?
About what? About the
green storytelling.
Storytelling.
Yeah, so sustainability. Did you do anything in the training about diversity, equality, sustainability?
Yes, there were a lot of seminars about green and sustainable storytelling and how it could be on the screen and also on set and in production. So we talked about it a lot, and you know, you find out when it's for some people it's really already close to their heart, so it's easier for them to step into these ways of thinking and ways of producing. So then it can be like a value that you take with you to the set, and for others you have to put in the green. But we talked about it a lot, and I don't know if we have to. In the end, we have to go to sustainable. Otherwise we will all die, and we won't even be making TV anymore. So
we can't even delegate then.
So we don't have much choice. So this is.
But I think it's also on the forefront of the different film institutes' minds as well, because there is initiatives of producing in a green way and sustainable way, and you know, diverse and everything. So I think we're already there, but of course everyone has to keep that train sort of going, because we get better and better and better at it every time, I guess.
But I think it's also, we often tend to think green producing, right? But green storytelling is something different. It's incorporating sustainability into the story.
We had a seminar about this also, and sometimes when your story touches this, you know, I work a lot for children. So this is one of the core values that you want to take with you in your drama, that, you know, not only taking care of each other, but also taking care of the environment. So it's also a little bit of what you make, what you want to tell, what you take on the world. But what I always see is, the more serious grown-up drama we're making, the more we forget about sustainability, because when you make stuff for children, you want to tell them how the world can be, and when you're making stuff for grown-ups, you just want to show how bad the world can be to get views. So, you know,
I don't know, I disagree a little bit. Coming from, you know, the genre of romantic comedies and feel good, I think that we really tried to convey that as well, but I guess it's a bit true that it's perhaps more difficult for green storytelling than green producing. Green producing has a lot of initiatives, but I think we're still on a track where that's at least in Norway there is initiatives saying that they want to enhance productions and creative productions that has that theme also within the storytelling, both in that and diversity and yeah.
The more the age group of the viewer goes up, and the more it's male and white, the more the sustainability goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I do think, and it's also something that we talked about in the think tank about sustainability, is a showrunner's role is so important when it comes to this, because you have that creative vision from beginning to end. So it's up to you to make sure that you're managing a sustainable process, right?
Drama is changing the world. So we tell people we show people what you could think, what you could feel. So this is our responsibility. Yes,
definitely.
Absolutely.
So we're already.
I mean, that comes. Yeah. Sorry. No, sorry. I would just say that. I mean, obviously, it comes with if you have the power of a showrunner, it means you have the main power of a TV series, and with that comes the greatest responsibility, of course.
It's great power comes great responsibility. Here we go again. Okay. Yes, I mean, we're already going over time. Can you believe an hour is already over? Yeah, but I'm going to ask you your final vision: a sustainable European showrunning system. A few thoughts.
I truly believe that the model, something like the model that we have in Denmark, is very applicable to the rest of Europe. And of course, it will be individually, I mean, there's so many different versions of that model. But I truly believe that a version where a showrunner is a strong creative leader of a TV series, and that this is the natural way of doing it, giving the creative power to a writer and creating maybe a partnership with a producer for that creator, that writer creator, I think is a very sustainable, or is the only way for me to create a general high level of quality in TV series in Europe.
Beautiful.
And I truly believe that we're going there. It feels like it when we talk to all the participants from I think in each of the industries, things are moving.
Yeah, I think so too. Definitely, from talking to from all these different perspectives, etc. in the last year. So thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your experience and inspiring us. Tijs, Jeppe, Julie, thank you. And for all of you there, this was the 5th and the last European Showrunner Think Tank. And if you're interested in this session or in any of the other ones, you can find the video recordings at showrunners.eu, showrunners.eu. And recording of today's session will be available there shortly as well. Also, if you are a writer and an aspiring showrunner and you got really interested by listening to this, then you can also find all the info about applying for the next training there. Thank you so much and have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.